a man standing right there. And I will take another pin and I'll place it there. Now at that time, I had no idea who this person was. The distance so great, unable to identify the person. However, I observed this person with a rifle shooting in this direction. Running farther down, which only took a few seconds to this point, that's where I identified the fact that my dog Brandy was right in this area. And coming across here, I saw something in this area, but I wasn't really sure if it was Brandy or Dude. It's a big dog. I also saw some other dogs in this area. They weren't mine. Didn't know who they were. A couple of other dogs. When I see that Brandy's down here, and I realize my wife is somewhere in this area, I don't know if she'd gotten to this point, because I understood later on that that's the last point that she was before she went back. I realized this person, I could see him shooting in this direction. I immediately yelled, "Stop shooting," as loud as I could. He's pointing in the direction of my property. When I yelled, he looked up at me like this, and then went back to shooting immediately. All in all, I counted over what seemed to be 30 shots or more during the entire course. And I see Brandy right here, and she's right in this area. She comes, this is a small hill. This is about a 3-foot tall hill. This entire area is virtually flat. Standing right here, I could not see the top of this roof. This is about a 14-foot tall metal building. So the rise from here to there may have been 5 feet. The person continued to shoot, and Brandy was coming towards me. And I saw the shooter swing his rifle and start shooting at Brandy. What it appeared to be, he was shooting at one dog and then started shooting at Brandy. And when Brandy heard me, she started running in my direction. And as she ran to me, I ran to her. And as she's getting closer, she's hit. She's hit 3 times. Ultimately, we end up in this spot right there. This is the spot where Brandy fell at my feet. I grabbed her. She was still alive. She looked up at me with an expression, "Daddy, I was just coming home." Now, Brandy was a 65-pound wolf. Part timber wolf, part Arctic wolf, part husky. A pet. She was spayed when she was a year old. Up on our shots, just a lap dog. And I held her for a few moments, looking down at her, holding her. And her blood is just pouring all over me. I looked up, and I realized that the shooter standing at this point was still on it. My assumptions are still on. But let me back up. I don't have my questions in front of me. I thought this would come later in the day and I'd have time to prepare. Obviously, the court's denying me the ability to do certain things, so bear with me. As I'm running towards Brandy, the shooter later identified as Barry Laxton, is shooting in this direction. As Brandy got closer and closer, the bullets were flying past me, literally past my head. I could hear it to one side or the other. I couldn't see the bullets, but I could hear them. And it has a very distinctive sound when the bullet's flying right past you. I don't know if any of you target shoot, or if you've ever been in the military. I've never been shot at before, but I described the shots to friends that have been in the military, and they said, yep, they were going right past your head, real close. I knew I was in danger. Now, I have a weapons permit. I've had a weapons permit since the early 90s. I acquired that as a special deputy through the Shelby County Sheriff's Department as a necessity to be able to be armed while being a pilot for the Air Force, working in counter-narcotics, DEA, and customs missions through the Civil Air Patrol based out of Forest City, Arkansas. My job is to go out, fly a plane, and let people in the backseat look for pot plants, look for lost people, do earthquake exercises, identify problems in the region. I was mission trained pilot for many years. The requirements to carry a gun was a necessity because if you're flying low over a field, and we found many places where pot was grown throughout Arkansas. Most of the time, believe it or not, it was property owned by the sheriff. The reality is that many people were caught growing pot because of this effort. And there was a lot of eradication that was done because of this effort. We found lost boaters that were stranded on the river. We found lost hikers and campers. And the necessity was at that time, before weapons permits were really available, that people who had a special need could apply and get a permit. In getting that permit, I had extensive training through the Sheriff's Department on how to fire a gun, when to shoot and not to shoot. They also discussed the fact that you have a right to enact a citizen's arrest. You have the ability to tell a person to stop.
Yeah, at this point, I'll object.
Objection will be sustained. You'll receive the charge of the law from the court at the conclusion.
My whole defense is self-defense and citizen's arrest. I think they're entitled to know what that is, and if Your Honor's not going to allow them to know what the elements of citizen's arrest are, you're denying me due process.
The state objected to you testifying about what those elements are. They'll get a charge of the law at the conclusion. They have to take the law not from witnesses, but from the court. And then the jury is the determiner of the facts and the law. But they receive the charge of the law from the court at the conclusion and not by witnesses testifying about what the law is.
I'm qualified to testify as to the law, Your Honor.
I'm not arguing that, Mr. Parsons. I'm just stating the procedural rules we have to go by. Objection's been made. I've ruled on a sustained objection. Please don't try to instruct the jury about the law that applies to the case.
I was informing them of my training and what that training entailed. Am I entitled to inform them of my special training?
You can testify about the facts in the case. Yes, sir.
My qualifications would be a fact.
I object, then it's irrelevant as to his qualifications, except how it relates to September 24th, 2007. If he's the better trained he is, then the more egregious his conduct, I would say.
The state did not make an objection about any of your testimony about your background and training up to that point, and therefore the jury can consider that testimony the same as any other testimony. The state made an objection when you began instructing the jury as to what the law is, and I sustained the objection. Continue with your testimony.
It wasn't meant to be instruction, Your Honor. It was meant to clarify my level of training and my understanding of what I as a citizen have a right to do. The different standards of what an officer does and what a citizen does is very crucial.
I ruled
and I have no doubt that the state will deny the jury the right to be able to read what the statutes are relating to citizen's arrest. I have no doubt that they're going to do that and that Your Honor is going to sustain their position.
Go ahead.
The jury's entitled to know the truth.
Go ahead with your testimony.
in my training, I have been made aware of the fact that as a citizen, most people probably don't know this.
You know, I believe that Mr. Parsons is intelligent enough to understand when he's been told no. If not, I raise the same objection as to his saying what the law is.
I'm quoting the law.
The objection to be sustained with regard to giving legal opinions to the jury.
It was not a legal opinion. When I was in this area before I reached Brandy, the shots were flying past me. I carry a pistol in a holster in plain view, as opposed to being concealed in a pocket in plain view. Wearing a white shirt and blue jeans in a wide open field, I'm easy to spot. I'm constantly yelling to stop shooting. The shots did not stop. I realized I'm too far to shoot and defend myself at this time. The distance is too great. And the fact is that there was at that time a mobile home here, and there was a house here. There were no structures here. But the reality is that it would have been improper for me to try to fire upon the shooter, because if I missed, someone else could be jeopardized. I removed my pistol and fired one round into the ground, hoping that he would be scared and stop shooting. 2 more rounds flew past me as Brandy reached me, and the shot stopped. My pistol's in my holster. I'm holding her. I lose sight of the man being shooting. I then realized my wife's over here. My dog's over here. I'm right in the middle of the field. I have no cover. I don't know how many other people are out there fixing to shoot me. My options are to move forward and to secure the scene and act as citizen's arrest to prevent this man from doing further damage. Prevent him from killing me or my wife or my other dog. I carry a digital recorder. As a professional home inspector, there are many occasions where I am required to do very detailed analysis of commercial properties, homes, various things. And because of that, it's not always proper and practical to take notes. Underneath the house, up on the top of a building when the wind's blowing 40 miles an hour, having a digital recorder is handy because you can turn it on, talking to it, and record hours and hours and hours of notes, and then go back and recover those. Because I had this around my neck, I turned it on. This is what they look like. They come with a little strap lanyard, and they can be easily turned on by just pushing a button. I turned it on, and because I have been shot at, my dog has just been shot and killed right in front of me, my family pet. I'm somewhat distraught. You heard the audio. You heard the distress in my voice. It's one thing to be distressed. It's another thing to lose your composure and do things that are wrong. The fact is, my voice is very strange, because I never had anybody shoot and kill a dog right in front of me, let alone my own pet. I never had anybody shoot me, but I had the presence of mind to know that I had the right and the opportunity to stop any more damage to my family. I tried to call my wife, and as I'm calling, the phone's ringing, because when I dialed it, it didn't go through, and somebody's trying to call me, I think it was my wife, and it went to voicemail. And on the audio that you heard yesterday, you could hear me walk down. Not running, walking. But as I raised up from Brandy and I looked down there, I see the shooter down there, but he was now closer to this area, which is a pickup truck stationed in this location. And there was another fellow, right here, later identified as Nick King, at the door of the truck. And I saw Nick King with a pistol, a black pistol, it appeared to be a semi-automatic handgun, small, come out of the truck, turn like this, look at me, and he walked over here to the side of the building. Now, as I'm walking down to this area, I come to stop right here, and Mr. King moved over to the location where his buddy, Mr. Laxton, moved over to where Mr. King was. Mr. Laxton was now over here. I walked down right here beside the truck, and this is where I stopped. The first thing I said, put your gun down. At this point, I can't see Nick King's gun. Didn't know what he did with it. I can't see Laxton's rifle. But now, rifles like this, may I pick up the rifle and show the... Yes. Rifles like this, hunting rifles, typically have the ability to have a strap put on those so that you can put them over your shoulder and carry them through the woods. I didn't know what kind of rifle it was. I didn't know if it had a strap on it. My first response to him was, put your gun down. My first thought was to make sure that he doesn't have the opportunity to shoot me or my family. To defuse the situation, you have to make sure the person is disarmed. The first thing I said is, put your gun down. Then I realized, I don't see your gun. I said, where's your guns? The third word, turn around. Speaking to Mr. Laxton. You're not Mr. Laxton. Speaking to Mr. Laxton, turn around, thinking he's got the rifle behind his back. He said, I ain't got no gun. I said, you're under arrest, citizen's arrest. And then King starts chiming in. Now, King's over here with him, assisting him. And I said, you two, stop. You're under arrest, citizen's arrest. And in the audio tape, you may have caught it, you may not have. Mr. King said, or actually I said, back up, don't come any closer. And repeatedly I said, where's your gun? Where's your gun? Where's your gun? Now he said, put your gun down, put your gun down, put your gun down. But if he's got a gun in his pocket with his hand on it, actually it was in his right pocket with his gun, and he's wearing loose-fitting shorts, which, if I can get it in the videotape, you'll see the loose-fitting shorts. He can easily have the pistol in there pointed, and believe it or not, cloth is not one.
Objection as to the argument, Your Honor. This is testimony.
I was threatened. I realized that I needed to stop them, act the citizen's arrest, make sure they were disarmed, call the police, have them transferred. They're walking around. You heard the audio tape. They're moving around. And I tell them repeatedly, put your gun down. Where's your gun? And then I started saying, where's my dog? Put your gun down. Where's my dog? Nick King finally confessed. His gun was in his pocket, and my dog went that way. And I said, get rid of your gun. He made a comment that I thought he said, if I do, I'll shoot you. I couldn't quite hear what he was saying because of the distance. At that point, he was probably from here to the back of the room. Now, you're probably wondering, I heard this audio tape, and it sounds like they're very close. These have excellent recording capabilities. I have one over there right now recording everything. Certain people don't want those to be recorded because of the permanent record. And I caution them just what they say. But the fact is that with it around my neck, my gun is in my holster. By the time I left Brandy, I put the gun in the holster, trying to call my wife. It takes two hands. I can't hold a gun and dial a cell phone. Gun's in the holster. I'm walking down the hall. You may recall hearing that. While I'm down there instructing them that they're under arrest, citizen's arrest, my thumb drive is hanging from my neck, and at some points I hold it up and point it like this, just to make sure that I can pick up everything I say. I didn't see the rifle. I knew King has a pistol in his pocket, but he's a good distance. I didn't feel quite as threatened from him now because of the separation. Because in training for shooting a pistol, the reality is that if somebody's that far away, the likelihood of them getting you is not as good as if they're this close. This is imminent danger. That's questionable. Now, when I'm facing the truck, I'm looking for the rifle. The door's open. I look inside. I don't see the rifle, but I did see a paddle holster. I confiscated the paddle holster for purposes of showing the police officers when they arrived that they were armed. And of course, you heard prior to me looking at the truck, Nick King got on the phone. Now, Nick King was never subdued. He never submitted to the citizen's arrest. He perpetually walked around. He was never detained. Same with Mr. Laxton. He never got on his knees. He testified yesterday. He perpetually walked around. I observed him not submitting to a citizen's arrest, which is what they're required to do. No difference than if law enforcement says, stop, you're under arrest. By law, you have to stop.
Objection. Objection, Your Honor.
Objection to be sustained.
He made a phone call to 911. And on the recording, you can hear me say, that's right. Tell them that Mike Parsons is enacting a citizen's arrest. That was heard yesterday. And I had no doubt he was calling 911. Looking in the truck, I saw the paddle holster. And I picked up the paddle holster, confiscated it in order to give it to law enforcement, who would later ask, how do you know these men were armed? Here's a paddle holster. I witnessed his gun. Here's a paddle holster. If you find a pistol that matches this, you'll know who it belongs to. I had no idea who Nick King was. I had no idea whose truck this was. All I knew is that a man shot at me, shot in the direction of my wife, and shot to kill my dog. That's all I knew. And on the audio recording, Barnett at SOB, that's the man that owned the property, but the shooter was not Mr. Burnett. From the distance, it looked like it could be. I met Mr. Burnett twice. 500 feet away, it's easy to mistake someone. Got the same age, same build, same hair color, same size. Not that hard to mistake a person. Then, Mr. King, he's over there walking around, and Mr. Laxton, you can hear him approaching. And I said, stay back. He said, you can't look in there. If the man was in fear, he would not be moving towards me. But when I first walked down, when they first started approaching me, my gun's in my holster. And I said, get back, get down. I'll shoot. Don't come any closer. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That was meant to get them to stop. My last intention was to shoot anybody. My intention was to stop them from shooting me or killing my dogs or my wife. That's my intention. And because I maintained composure, trying to secure the scene, I was able to confiscate the paddle holster as well as the rifle. And upon picking up the rifle, they were now at the back of the building. I think he referred to it as the front of the building. I refer to this as the back of the building because this is where I was in the front area, right beside the truck. And I said, don't follow me, as I went back and got Brandy and carried her back to my property. Along the way, I tried to call a friend of mine. I tried to call my wife. and I spoke to my wife. And she said, dude's back, come help. As I got over to my side of the property, I placed Brandon right here underneath this tree. I broke the branch so that I would be able to identify, if I came back at night, which tree she was under. So I took a branch that was probably about an inch thick. It's a pine tree, so it broke fairly easily. And I broke it. And I kind of covered her up with some pine needles. I had run from over here to over here, shot at, adrenaline's flowing. Brandy's a 65-pound dog. She had been swimming in the pond, full of water, soaking wet, heavy. I was fatigued, I was exhausted, and Pat needed my help right then, so I laid her underneath the tree. Planning on coming back and getting her as soon as I had made contact with law enforcement, made sure that they had the rifle, presented them with everything that I had, and so went back to the house to help Pat, and then through contact with previous witness, Chip Ward, made contact with the sheriff's deputies who were just arriving and were at the front of the property. And I had informed him that I was going to come down with the rifle. And you probably heard an audio recording played yesterday. What should I do with it? Get rid of it. But the witness that I'm not able to call would testify that he's on the other side of the phone. Jim Jones, our conversation would be, Mr. Parsons, you don't trust these people, we don't trust these people, these law enforcement officers are not to be trusted. Get anything you have to do with your case of the election out of your house, because if they come in there, they're going to take your computer, they're going to take your files, they're going to take your evidence, which will prove your lawsuit against the county for fraud in the election. Now, the prosecution is going to try to imply that we were hiding something illegal or doing something illegal. No, not at all. So I was advised by him to remove the computer and the evidence I had for that case. And I asked him about the rifle. What should I do with the rifle? How do I get it to them? And he's advising me as to how to do it, because he knows that if I go down there with the rifle like this, they may feel threatened and they may shoot me. And so when I spoke to Chip, I said, let him know I'm coming down. And he said, yeah, just make sure you got the rifle out away from you so that they know that you're not threatened. So then I walked down to the street and I took the rifle with me and yelled to the officers, I'm coming down, I've got the rifle. Don't shoot, I'm coming, I've got the rifle. Mr. Parsons, at this point, I would like to play an audio tape and see if you can identify this audio tape. Now I need to go back and play the audio tape of the interview with the police officers at the scene where I give them the rifle and instruct them as to what happened.
How long is this thing?
You have a copy of it. Driveway interview?
It's over 4 hours?
Yeah.
Your Honor, I'd like to know, to be able to determine its relevance, for what purpose it's being offered. If it's 4 hours of Mr. Parsons talking to the officers at the scene, for what purpose it's being offered.
This will show and refute that the officer said I gave no statement. This will show that I gave a statement, told them exactly that the man shot at me and my wife, shot and killed my dog. Here's the rifle. Come look at my dog. We've had 2 officers for the state deny that I said any, well, one kind of alluded to it, but yet they identified they had no record of it. That's because they didn't want to create a record, just like in this court when I'm denied the ability to present my evidence. And
I had it's been turned off.
I'm walking up to the gate.
the prosecution has been given a copy.
Objection, Your Honor.
I don't know what time it is. Sun just went down.
Its relevance is it
Chip's up here to
shows.
the 2 sheriff's deputies.
I'm sorry, there's no record when this is on, I cannot hear.
I'm sorry, ma'am.
There's no record when that's playing, I cannot hear.
It's too loud.
Yes, Your Honor, the state's objection is to, and the state does have a copy of it, 4 hours plus almost 5 hours of Mr. Parsons' discussion with the officers. Certainly Mr. Parsons can testify if it's being used for some sort of impeachment of officers who said there wasn't a statement. All Mr. Parsons has to do is testify, I told them such and such. I can't see the relevance. It seems to be hearsay, Your Honor.
No, sir, not at all. The state was allowed to play an audio tape yesterday, and they've been provided this. They've had it for a long time. It is material to the case. It does impeach, certainly it impeaches their witnesses who misrepresented the facts in this case, but it also corroborates my statement, and I'm entitled to prove my statement because they're going to state that what I said is just my own opinion. This corroborates my testimony.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a short break. During the break, please don't discuss the case among yourselves or let anyone discuss it with you. Step out to the jury room for a few minutes. See if I can understand what the tape is that wants to play. What period of time does that cover? What are we talking about?
I'm not going to play the whole tape, Your Honor. Basically, the first 5 to 10 minutes will cover the situation where I met the officers, presented them with a rifle, informed them that I was shot at, my wife was shot at, my dog was shot and killed, and my request for them to come look at my dog and inform them that I was enacting a citizen's arrest and that I was in fear of my life because they had guns pointed at me. Beyond that, we can move forward to the point where the officers are in the field where my dog, we're looking for the dog at this point, which is about an hour and a half later. We're looking for the dog, and we can hear an officer, I think it was Arender, who testified under oath, that he found her and said, I found her, she's over here, but yet it was someone else who said, oh, it's a possum. That will be played to verify, number one, that an officer said, I found her, she's over here, and the jury will hear the impact of just a few seconds later, when they walked up and saw her, it was pitch black at night. We can take judicial notice, I guess it's called, that we were out there with flashlights, and when they saw the dog, someone else came over, looked at her, apparently identifying she shot in the back. And I would assert trying to cover up the fact that we were the victims. And so they said, oh, it's a possum. And then immediately, within 60 seconds, they will hear Investigator Nessie state, we've looked long enough, let's go. And they'll also hear Investigator Nessie say that maybe it'll rain, that would be a good thing. And my wife said, well, that would cover up evidence. And he said, no, that would preserve evidence. Our concern is that this will show that the state did cover up the fact that they identified Brandy. It will also show that the state denied us the right to go look and show them Brandy immediately at that moment. It will also support the defense position that, in fact, the state did not take a statement from me, even though one was given. I had identified 3 felonies witnessed in my presence. which is material to support the citizen's arrest, identifying felonies that I observed in my presence. Also identifying the fact that I had been shot at, that Nick King, didn't know who he was at the time, had a pistol in his pocket pointed at me. Mr. Laxton had his hand in his pocket pointed at me, and the assumption is both of these men are armed. Now obviously Nick King later testified that he had a gun in his pocket. Mr. Laxton maintains he didn't have a pistol. But this testimony, which occurred immediately after the fact, would show that the officers were aware of the fact that I was shot at. My statements to them were made, but yet they chose not to record any of that or document it for the record. They chose to only take the side of Laxton and King, who ultimately were the perpetrators of the crime against my family. And that's what the jury would be able to hear.
Yes, Your Honor, there are a lot of different things here. The state has no particular objection, I don't guess, to, as it's described, being some few minutes of recording of Mr. Parsons, I guess, surrendering the gun and recounting briefly that he enacted a citizen's arrest and he was shot at and that sort of thing. He's certainly gotten that out through every question that he's asked. I don't have any particular objection to that. I still don't see the relevance, although Mr. Parsons seems to, about the trip at night to find the corpse of the wolf. And I don't think it's ever even been any controversy that they went out there, that somebody said that's a possum, that Richard Nestle said he hoped for rain, and that they didn't find the dog. Now what that's got to do with anything, I don't understand, and I would object to that portion of the tape. I don't object to any portion of the tape in which, although admittedly self-serving sort of statements to the what had happened may be interspersed in it, if it's relatively brief about recounting of there being a citizen's arrest.
Pokes holes in the state's case, Your Honor, that in fact I was enacting a lawful citizen's arrest. I had immediately upon the officers arriving presented them with the rifle and the paddle holster, which would prove the elements of theft of property are not supported in this case. Those elements have to be that I substantially, or my intentions were to deprive these people of this property. My intentions were to prevent them from shooting me and to preserve this evidence for law enforcement, for which I immediately gave law enforcement this evidence upon their arrival. Furthermore,
If you've got the tape for those two incidents,
yes, sir.
Narrowed down where you can play those two incidents.
The first part is right off the bat. It would take the first 5-10 minutes. Now the second part, I would need to put on my headphones, which I have. It would take me probably 30 seconds to locate it, but I have to locate the counter.
Court will allow that.
Your Honor,
Take a short break, about a 7-8 minute break, and give you a chance to get that set up the way you want it. Stand in recess for a minute.
All rise.
I need the videotape to be marked for identification. Like, if this is not what you're going to play, I need to mark this for identification. When you're playing something, don't talk, because I can't hear you over it, and I can't get a recording. Okay. So when you're playing it, don't talk.
okay, thank you.
Have a good weekend, Rob?
I couldn't tell you, I can't remember what I did yesterday. Nothing terrible happened, so I guess that's good. That's well you think. It seemed like there's a whole lot of sleeping going on, so I guess that's good.
Yes, that's why. I started working on a fence Saturday and was driving those metal posts, you know, at the backs of my arms and the
Post all day?
yeah, well, you know, the metal post that you put the pipe on.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, that's bad enough. Are they pointed at the end or something? They gotta have something to make it easier.
And it's just made in the form of a T. And you just, which, you know, the ground was somewhat soft.
Yeah, I don't think you got enough rain for it, but,
But it's when you just old and fat and out of shape, man.
that must be hard, yeah.
And the ones we deal with, gonna have to put the corner post in. A buddy of mine's got a post hole to put on the back of the tractor.
Oh, that's nice.
Oh, yeah, because I knew I didn't want to get into that manual. So we got most of our posts set. Hopefully this weekend, Thanksgiving weekend, I'm gonna start stretching wire.
Was it barbed wire?
I'm gonna put up a 46-inch, what they call a field fence, and then probably put one strand of barbed wire across that. We're trying to get ready to put some horses up there.
I can say gonna need more than that for woolers. Well, Greg, to move on to the next phase of my life now. It's all this stuff.
Post bars there.
Yeah, this Parsons. It's another phase in my life. My life's divided into like 3 cases. I do 300, it's like it's divided into 3.
When I'm there, I lock myself in the office and close the doors, like I cannot leave here.
Took the other one there to get back.
Brandon Flowers, what is that?
PtII tomorrow.
Is it going?
No.
We'll call the PtII dog.
I just can't really look at the file and make him an offer. Otherwise, I'm sure I will. It's like motions tomorrow.
Okay, so I can call the TBI guy and tell him I'm done.
Oh, yeah, there's no trial. I think it's motions. In fact, I think my witness is Browder. I don't even have a witness. I don't even think I have a witness.
Smith will be there.
Yeah. Well, if he wants an offer, just, in fact, that's what he called. I heard the telephone message. I just had never answered. Bob Brandon wants an offer.
He's in the break room.
Apparently one's already been made.
Did you watch the LSU over there?
Hold it.
I saw the very end of it when they did that, all the crazy. Wow.
I told you mine.
Yeah,
Mine was very easy.
yeah.
It just
Like,
left.
yeah. You could give a rat's ass about that. That's not even close. Which member of the league are longer in your mind? When you're in the nursing home, the little drools come out, what are you going to think about? Happened, 65 years before.
But anyway, there's no signal. Was it text back and forth? Eddie went too old to cry.
Well, we ought to go down the scale to see at what point women, if the break-off is. At what point? Well, I know, I'm just trying to think. What would be close? Big break-off.
Well,
They just said you were the one.
I wouldn't do that. You wouldn't be honest. I'd rather go. I do a week. Well, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think.
All rise, start recording, begin the session. Everyone be attentive, come to order.
Ready to proceed?
Oh, we're not going to have the jury when we play
Oh,
it?
no, sir, I don't know if it's time to get the jury.
Sir?
You ready to proceed?
Yes, sir.
All right, ask the jury to come in, please. Proceed, please. Thank you.
At this time, I will play the audio recording.
I'm walking up to the gate. Sun's down. I don't know what time it is. Sun just went down. I believe Chip's up here with 2 sheriff's deputies. We'll probably have the whole friggin' force here in just a minute. Hey! I'm walking up to the gate. Sun's down. I don't know what time it is. Sun just went down. I believe Chip's up here with 2 sheriff's deputies. We'll probably have the whole friggin' force here in just a minute. Hey! Chip! 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 Is Anybody there? Hello? I just want to make sure y'all there. Y'all want to come get this? I'm clean. Dude shot at me, and he shot my dog. He emptied that damn thing.
What do you mean he shot at you? Tell me what happened.
He shot at me.
Okay, well tell me where were you at when he shot at you?
On the back side of that field over there. I crossed over the fence. My dog got loose. She was running around. She's like a husky mix. They know we've got wolf hybrids. I mean, they're pets. They're not vicious animals. She was running across there, and he started shooting at her. She came straight towards me when I called her, and he leveled out just like that, and I heard him whizzing past my head. I carry a gun. I've got a weapons permit. I pulled it out. I fired one shot in the ground. I said, stop firing, stop firing. He stopped firing. She fell down at my feet and died. He's standing there with the gun. I went in there and I said, citizen's arrest. And I know the Constitution. I know I have a right to citizen's arrest. I was going to stop the guy because he threatened my life. He shot at me and he killed my dog. Now, where he shot her, he works with that guy. Where he shot her is not on their place of business. He has a home, a hangar, and a barn, and he's got cropland. Where he shot her and where he shot at me was the farmland. He doesn't have a right to shoot at the dog under TCA code. You can't just shoot somebody's dog. It has to be threatening you or your livestock. The dog's running away, and I can show you the dogs. All the bullet holes are in the sides and the back, none in the front. She's not a vicious animal. I've got dozens of people that can attest to that. He shoots her dead and shoots at me, and I'm trying to stop this guy. He throws his gun down. I got down there, and I kept asking him where the gun was. His buddy's sitting there with a gun in his pocket. I said, get your gun out. He wouldn't do it. So he's threatening me too. Finally, because he's got a gun.
In his pocket?
Yeah. In his
that
hand,
he's refusing to take out?
And his hand's in his pocket.
But he's refusing to take it out?
That's right.
Okay, that's not threatening, Mike. Go ahead, tell your story.
Well, I felt threatened because he's got his hand in his pocket.
Okay.
And he's got a gun. He told me he had a gun. Anyway, I found the guy's gun. I got it. I went back, got my dog, and brought her over here.
So, when you went down there, why didn't you point the gun at him?
Because he was shooting at me.
Why didn't you just go back to your house and dial 911 and let the police officer do their job?
Because I was in imminent danger right there. The guy could have shot me in the back.
Okay, but he stopped you and put his gun down. So you just
No, not till I got down there.
Okay, well, you just said that he shot when you told him to stop.
When I fired a warning shot,
put the gun down there, and then you went down there to get the gun. I mean, that's what you just said. Is that not what you just heard? That's what I mean.
This is a digital recorder. I've said it once, and you can listen to it a million times.